Bronny, in a terrible draft, I defended as the 55th pick.
Every NBA locker room runs on an unwritten code. Nobody posts it on the wall, but the moment you walk through those doors, you feel it. Roster spots are sacred. 15 per team. That's it. And every one of those spots sits on top of hundreds of dreams that never get a real chance.
In the NBA, you have to pretend that Bronny's an NBA player, because otherwise you'll upset the king. And remember, he is a 6'2" guard that's a non-point guard. I've never seen that existing in the current NBA. And go back 20 years. He is 1 for 16 in the NBA from the floor, 0 for 7 on threes. He's not an NBA player. He was not a great high school player. He was a good high school player. He wasn't a good college player. He was a college player. And he's not an NBA player. And he may be a great kid. I'm sure he is. LeBron's a nice guy. I've met him.
I just looked it up. G-League, top scorers, points per game. I went through 50, and there's no Bronny James in there. He had 140-point game. The other games were 1. So now you do the math. And it's not going to be in the top 50. I don't even know who is this. Bryce McGowan, Elijah Harkles, Trey Alexander, DJ Davidson. Never heard of these kids. But they're dropping 30 a night in G League. Why is Bronny sitting on the bench?
And that's the thing with Stephen A. He understands the grind. The guys who claw through Summer League, bounce around on two-way deals, survive 10-day contracts, pack bags for overseas flights, and sit alone in empty gyms waiting for one real call, one real shot. So when someone holds a roster spot without truly earning the coaching staff's trust, the vibe in that locker room changes fast. It doesn't explode overnight. It builds slowly, it lingers, and eventually, everyone in the room feels it. That's exactly where the Los Angeles Lakers are right now with Bronny James.
Bronny James, he's 7 for 28 in 4 preseason games from the field. He's 2 for 13, I believe, from three-point range. He's got 8 assists and 8 turnovers. He's moving into year 2. This guy is not an NBA player.
On paper, Bronny checks the boxes. He's in the league, guaranteed contract, purple and gold on his chest, front row seat on the bench every night. But when the Lakers actually needed bodies, when Luka Doncic and Gabe Vincent were out, when Austin Reeves was banged up, when the backcourt was thin and the game still meant something,
Overs 0 for 5, looked terrified, nervous, and the Sixers, you can't fool players, went right after him. This continues to be an unserious story.
Bronny's name never got called. Instead, J.J. Redick made a move that said more than any press conference ever could. He started Nick Smith Jr. Let that sink in for a second. Nick Smith Jr., a guard who'd already been cut by Charlotte before finishing out his rookie deal. A player with shaky numbers, defensive question marks, and no locked-in future anywhere in the league. The Lakers quietly signed Nick Smith Jr. to a two-way deal. No spotlight, no big announcement. And when it came time to decide who they trusted in a real NBA moment, they chose him over Bronny James. This wasn't about Nick Smith Jr. being some hidden gem they'd been stashing. This was about who the coaching staff believes gives them a better chance right now. And that gap, it's loud. They didn't just leave Bronny on the bench that night. They sent a message without saying a word. When the Suns pushed the lead and the outcome was basically sealed, that's when Bronny finally checked in. 9 minutes left, game already decided, end of game minutes where nothing is on the line. The message couldn't have been clearer. And it's not a one-off. Same pattern, different night. If the game is close, he's watching. If it matters, he's sitting. If something real is on the line, he's not part of the equation. That's not player development. That's controlled exposure. This goes way beyond one rough matchup or one cold shooting stretch. It's turning into a weekly pattern that's getting harder to explain away. Bronny hasn't logged more than 10 meaningful NBA minutes since early November. That's not a normal usage pattern for someone an organization claims it's developing. Even with injuries piling up in the backcourt, even when the team desperately needed fresh legs, perimeter pressure, or just clean ball movement, J.J. Redick never looked toward the end of the bench, not once. That silence is deafening. NBA coaches play the guys they trust. They live with missed shots. They ride out bad stretches. What they won't do is gamble wins on someone they don't believe in yet. And right now, the Lakers are quietly showing everyone exactly where Bronny James stands. Which brings up the question nobody wants to say out loud. Is Bronny holding a roster spot that could actually help this team right now? Around the league, there are hungry guards who would scrap for those minutes. Real contributors, guys who defend with urgency, space the floor, cut hard, and understand their role without needing the spotlight. These are the players playoff teams trust when March and April get serious. Those guys don't get long grace periods, they don't get endless patience, they don't get guaranteed contracts tied to a famous last name. They get judged on one thing: production and impact. If they don't deliver, they're gone. And right now, Bronny hasn't come close to clearing that bar. That's where the quiet tension starts to build, not just with fans watching at home, but inside locker rooms across the league. Players notice everything. They see when someone is being protected. They notice when opportunities feel handed out instead of earned. They see a coach consistently looking past a player even when basic basketball logic says give him a real run. Against Phoenix, when the Lakers needed a spark, J.J. Redick searched everywhere except the end of his bench. He leaned on Nick Smith Jr., he experimented with awkward lineup combos, he piled even more pressure onto Austin Reeves. He tried everything except turning to Bronny, until the game was already out of reach. That's not random. That's not just rotation strategy, that's hesitation with a capital H.
And the stats don't offer any cover either. Through 15 games, Bronny is averaging under 2 points per night, minimal assists, little to no defensive disruption. Most of that production came in late-game garbage minutes against deep bench units when the other team had already mentally checked out. Those aren't pressure reps, those aren't battles against real rotation players. Those are clock-burning minutes where teams are just finishing the night. And even there, Bronny hasn't stood out. That's the uncomfortable layer people keep dancing around. If he were owning those minutes, flying around on defense, knocking down open looks, forcing turnovers, this conversation flips immediately. Coaches reward effort, the league respects energy, impact demands attention. But that spark just hasn't shown up. Bronny has blended into the background. No separation, no urgency that forces more minutes, no stretch of play that makes a coach stop and say, "We need to see more of him." That silence says more than any stat line ever could. Now zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Bronny James holds one of 15 guaranteed roster spots on a team that isn't rebuilding. The Lakers are trying to win right now. They need real depth. They need perimeter defense. They need players who won't disappear when playoff basketball gets physical and intense. Yet one of their most valuable roster spots belongs to someone they clearly don't trust when the game is actually on the line. That's not long-term planning. That's a pressure point quietly building inside the organization. Front offices don't move on feelings or headlines. They move on numbers, cap sheets, and margins. As February approaches and the trade deadline tightens, every contract becomes one of two things: leverage or liability. And right now, Bronny looks less like a steady development piece and more like a complicated question the Lakers still can't answer when wins are on the table. That's not a knock, that's roster math. Is Bronny untouchable? Not a chance. Forget the historic father and son storyline. Forget the optics. Forget the marketing angle. The Lakers have already shown you the truth through their rotations. Bronny is not part of their competitive core right now. And if that's the reality, defending his active roster spot gets harder every single week, especially with LeBron James's future still hanging over everything. He opted in for another season, but the clock is ticking loud in that building. Everyone in there can feel it. When that chapter closes, the layer of protection around Bronny closes with it. At that point, the evaluation becomes straight across the board. Same standards, same pressure, same accountability. And so far, the early returns haven't been encouraging. That doesn't mean he can't grow into a real NBA contributor down the line. Development takes time. Guards especially need reps. Confidence is built through experience, but growth only happens when there's trust. And right now, that trust just isn't there.
He's stuck in the worst spot a young player can be in, officially on the roster, but not truly part of the plan. That's how momentum dies before a career ever gets going. Here's the hard reality people keep tiptoeing around. There are players in the G League, on overseas rosters, and sitting in free agency who could give the Lakers more immediate production right now. Defensive specialists who take pride in locking guys up, energy guards who flip the pace the second they step on the floor spacers who know their exact role and stick to it. Those are the pieces playoff teams lean on when games tighten and every possession matters. Those players don't get soft landings, they don't get narrative cushions, they don't get carefully protected timelines. And yet, one of the Lakers' 15 spots is tied to someone the coaching staff hasn't trusted in meaningful minutes. This isn't personal, it's professional. The NBA is brutal because it has to be. Too much talent, too few jobs. Every roster decision sends a message to the locker room and to the rest of the league. And right now, that message is getting louder by the day. The signal coming out of Los Angeles right now is impossible to miss. The Lakers do not trust Bronny James to help them win in real time. Until that changes, the pressure isn't cooling off. The questions will keep coming about fairness, about roster construction, about whether that 15th spot is being maximized, about how long a win-now team can carry a player who feels more like a headline than a rotation answer. The NBA doesn't slow down for anyone. It doesn't pause for big names, family legacy, or emotional backstories. Once the ball is tipped, it's simple. Who helps you win? Who holds up when the lights get bright? Right now, Bronny James is learning that lesson the hard way, from the sideline, watching chances go to other players while he waits.